Dr. Maya Carter thought she was just taking a flight home after a grueling shift. But the moment she stepped onto that plane, something felt wrong. First, her first-class seat was taken without explanation. Then, the man who took it collapsed mid-flight, and when she tried to help, the crew blocked her from saving him. Before she could make sense of it, the flight was mysteriously diverted, and her name erased from the passenger list. That was only the beginning. When the plane landed on an isolated airstrip, surrounded by black SUVs, Maya realized she wasn't just on the wrong flight, she was never supposed to be there at all. What was she caught in? Who was really pulling the strings? And how far would they go to make sure she never left that runway? Like stories with action and mystery? Subscribe now so you never miss one. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. We love hearing from viewers around the world. Dr. Maya Carter adjusted her coat as she stepped onto the plane, eager to settle into her first-class seat. After years of relentless work as a top cardiothoracic surgeon, she had finally treated herself to this luxury, a quiet, smooth flight home after a grueling 48-hour shift. She deserved it. She made her way to 2A, but before she could place her bag down, a flight attendant intercepted her. "Excuse me, ma'am, but I believe there's been a mistake," the attendant said, her polite smile tight. Maya blinked. A mistake? She pulled out her ticket and showed the digital confirmation on her phone. "This is my seat." The attendant barely glanced at it before shaking her head. "I'm sorry, but we've reassigned it. We can offer you a seat in economy." Maya frowned. "Reassigned? Without informing me? That doesn't make sense." "I understand, but we've upgraded another passenger." Maya's jaw tightened. She wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but she had experienced enough subtle discrimination in her life to recognize when something fell off. Around her, the murmurs of other first-class passengers buzzed like static. Before she could protest further, a man in a tailored suit and expensive cologne stepped past her and sank into seat 2A. He barely acknowledged her, instead waving for a glass of champagne. Maya clenched her fists. This was deliberate. But before she could argue, her phone rang. It was the hospital. She hesitated. She wasn't on duty, but she never ignored an emergency call. "Dr. Carter." The voice on the line was frantic. "We have a crisis. The patient you operated on last night, his condition is deteriorating. We need your input." Maya exhaled sharply, her priorities shifting. "Give me details." As she listened, another voice interrupted. A blood-curdling scream. She snapped her head up. The man who had taken her seat was convulsing, gripping his throat, his body twisting in agony. Gasps and shouts filled the cabin. A woman shrieked, "He's dying. Someone do something." Instinct took over. Maya pushed forward, ready to help only for a flight attendant to step in front of her. "Wait," the attendant said sharply. "Are you a real doctor?" Maya stared at her in disbelief. "Are you kidding me?" A passenger, a middle-aged man in business attire, sneered. "We need a real doctor, not someone pretending." The word stung, but before she could react, the dying man gasped one last time. His body stiffened. His eyes rolled back. There was no time to fight. She had a life to save. Ignoring the protests around her, Maya grabbed the emergency kit from the flight attendant's frozen hands and knelt beside the man. She checked his pulse, weak and erratic. His lips were turning blue. Poison, she realized. Or an allergic reaction. Either way, he had minutes. As she administered the necessary treatment, stabilizing his breathing, she noticed something unsettling. Tucked inside his jacket was a small, folded document. It had her name on it. Why would a complete stranger have her name in his pocket? A chill ran down her spine. Something was very, very wrong. The cabin remained eerily silent as Dr. Maya Carter knelt beside the unconscious man. The steady hum of the engines seemed distant against the pounding in her ears. She had stabilized his breathing, but his pulse was still weak. Whatever had caused this reaction wasn't just a simple allergic attack. It was something deliberate. And then there was the document. Her fingers hesitated before retrieving the folded paper from inside his jacket pocket. She glanced around, ensuring no one was paying attention, then discreetly unfolded it. Her breath hitched. It was a list. A printed document with several names. And there in the middle was hers, Dr. Maya Carter. A red line had been drawn through it. Maya's pulse quickened. Why was her name here? And why had it been crossed out? Step aside, a firm voice barked. Maya barely had time to process before a man in his 50s, wearing a crisp navy suit, pushed through the gathered crowd. His salt and pepper hair and commanding presence suggested authority. The airline's logo was embroidered on his lapel. "I'm Captain Reynolds," he announced. "What's the situation?" Maya squared her shoulders. He went into anaphylactic shock. "I administered epinephrine, but we need to land as soon as possible." The captain exchanged a glance with the lead flight attendant, the same one who had refused Maya her seat. Something unspoken passed between them. "We'll handle it," the flight attendant said quickly, motioning toward another crew member. "Please return to your seat." Maya stood, gripping the document tighter. "I don't have a seat." The attendant's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then please move to the economy cabin." Maya opened her mouth to argue, but stopped herself. This was bigger than a seating dispute. Instead, she folded the document and slipped it into her coat pocket. As she stepped into the aisle, a sharp whisper stopped her. "Wait." She turned. The man, the one who had collapsed, was awake. His bloodshot eyes locked onto hers. His lips moved, forming barely audible words. Maya leaned in. "What?" His breath was ragged, voice hoarse. "You weren't supposed to be here." A cold chill ran down her spine. Before she could press for more, a flight attendant ushered her away, stepping between them as if to block any further conversation. Maya had no choice but to retreat toward economy. Something was wrong with this flight. Very wrong. As she walked down the aisle, Maya pulled out her phone, trying to piece things together. She navigated to her flight details, checking her ticket confirmation again. But when she searched the airline's passenger list, something she had access to due to her frequent flyer status, her name wasn't there. Not just reassigned, completely erased. Maya sat down in an empty seat, gripping the phone tightly. How was that possible? Before she could process the implications, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to an unexpected medical emergency, we will be making an unscheduled landing." Maya exhaled in relief. At least they were landing soon. But then, the next words sent ice through her veins. "We will be diverting to an alternate location. Expected arrival in approximately 45 minutes. Alternate location? That was unusual. Standard protocol dictated emergency landings at the nearest airport. Where were they going? Maya glanced out the window. The sky was clear, but something about the shift in trajectory felt off. Then she noticed something else. One of the flight attendants, the same one who had tried to keep her away from the unconscious man, was gone. Maya stood abruptly, scanning the cabin. "Where's the other flight attendant?" she asked the nearest crew member. The woman frowned. "Which one?" "The one with the blonde hair, tied back in a bun. She was here just a moment ago." The crew member hesitated. "Ma'am, all of our attendants are present." Maya's stomach clenched. That was a lie. Something was happening on this plane, and she was beginning to think she wasn't meant to make it to her destination. Dr. Maya Carter sat rigidly in her seat, her mind racing. The flight was being diverted. A flight attendant had vanished midair, and the unconscious man, the one who had taken her seat, had whispered something chilling before passing out again. "You weren't supposed to be here." The weight of those words pressed against her like an invisible force. Was it a warning? A threat? Or just the ramblings of a delirious man? Maya glanced at her phone. No signal. That was odd. At this altitude, she should still have some connectivity. She tried refreshing the flight tracking app, but got nothing. The tension in the cabin was thick. Passengers whispered among themselves, exchanging nervous glances. They all knew something was wrong. A flight attendant walked down the aisle, her expression neutral, but her movements stiff. Maya studied her, noting the subtle glances she exchanged with her colleagues. They were nervous. She had been on enough flights to recognize the difference between standard turbulence protocol and whatever this was. Something was being hidden from them. Determined to get answers, Maya unbuckled her seatbelt and made her way toward the cockpit. As she passed the first-class cabin, she caught a glimpse of the man she had saved. He was conscious now but pale. He looked at her again, his lips slightly parted like he wanted to speak. But before she could approach, a flight attendant stepped in her path. "Ma'am, please return to your seat." Maya met her gaze. "I need to speak with the captain." "I'm afraid that's not possible." Maya folded her arms. "I think I deserve an explanation. First, my seat gets reassigned without warning. Then, I save a man's life and get told to sit down and be quiet. Now, the flight is being rerouted to an undisclosed location." The attendant's lips pressed into a thin line. "It's for everyone's safety." Maya narrowed her eyes. "Whose safety?" "Because right now I don't feel very safe." Before the attendant could respond, a sharp ding interrupted them. The intercom crackled again. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are currently making an emergency landing. Please remain seated and keep your seatbelts fastened." The tension in the air tightened. Maya took a slow breath. "Where are we landing?" The attendant hesitated. "A secure location." That was not an answer. Maya turned on her heels and walked briskly toward the back of the plane. The missing flight attendant had to be here somewhere. If she was hiding, it meant she had a reason. She scanned the galley. Empty. She checked the restroom doors. Locked. Then she noticed something strange. One of the overhead compartments was slightly ajar. Maya hesitated, then slowly reached up and pulled it open. Her breath caught in her throat. Inside, wedged between suitcases, was a folded flight attendant uniform. The name tag had been ripped off. Someone had changed clothes mid-flight. Maya took a step back, her pulse pounding. Someone was impersonating a crew member. But why? Before she could react, a hand clamped down on her wrist. She spun around. It was the man from first class. The one she had saved. His grip was weak but urgent. His bloodshot eyes locked onto hers. "You need to get off this plane," he rasped. Maya's stomach dropped. "What?" He swallowed hard, wincing. "It's not a detour. It's a handoff." Maya's breath hitched. A handoff? Before he could explain, the plane lurched violently. The wheels touched the ground. They had landed. But when Maya looked out the window, her blood ran cold. There was no airport. No terminal. Just a vast, empty airstrip surrounded by unmarked black SUVs. They had arrived. But where? And for what? The plane shuddered to a full stop. Outside, the black SUVs remained motionless, their tinted windows hiding whoever or whatever was inside. Dr. Maya Carter's breath was shallow, her mind racing. This was no ordinary landing. There were no airport buildings, no control towers, no airline personnel. Just an empty airstrip in the middle of nowhere. A handoff. That was what the man had said before the plane touched down. But a handoff of what? Or who? A sharp click echoed through the cabin. The seatbelt sign turned off, but no one moved. Passengers sat frozen, sensing that something was terribly wrong. Then the intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated while we undergo a routine security check. We appreciate your cooperation." Routine? Maya glanced at the man she had saved. His fingers trembled as he reached for his armrest, trying to steady himself. He turned to her, his lips barely moving. "You need to go. Now." Before she could respond, the aircraft door hissed open. A cold gust of air rushed in, carrying the distant scent of jet fuel and something else, something metallic. A man in a dark suit stepped inside. He wasn't airport security. He had no airline credentials, no badge, just a calm, practiced expression and eyes that gave nothing away. He scanned the cabin methodically before speaking. "We need Dr. Maya Carter to step forward." A chill ran down her spine. Every head turned toward her. Maya forced herself to stay composed. "Why?" The man didn't blink. For questioning. Her fingers curled into fists. "I haven't done anything wrong." A slight tilt of his head. "Then this won't take long." She didn't move. The man's lips thinned. He glanced at the flight attendants. "Bring her." Two uniformed attendants, the same ones who had tried to block her earlier, approached, their movements unnervingly synchronized. Maya's heartbeat thundered. Then chaos erupted. The man she had saved lurched forward, knocking over his tray table. His body convulsed violently, drawing gasps from the passengers. "He's seizing," someone screamed. The flight attendants hesitated. Maya didn't. She dropped low, using the momentary distraction to slide past the approaching attendants and into the narrow aisle. She moved fast, weaving through startled passengers. Behind her, the suited man barked orders, but she didn't stop. She reached the galley, where she had found the abandoned uniform. She yanked open another compartment, grabbing a crew jacket and slipping it over her shoulders. It was loose, but it would do. Then she spotted something even better, an emergency exit. She could hear heavy footsteps closing in. No time to hesitate. Maya grabbed the handle and pulled. The hatch gave way with a loud hiss. She flung herself through the opening. Cold air whipped against her skin as she landed on the tarmac with a jolt, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot up her ankle, but she pushed forward, darting behind the plane's landing gear for cover. Above, shouts erupted. The suited man had realized she was gone. Maya's breath came fast. She scanned the airstrip, eyes darting between the SUVs. She needed a way out. Then movement. One of the SUVs, parked farther away, had its driver's side door slightly ajar. Someone was inside, watching. Then, the car flashed its headlights twice. A signal. Maya hesitated only for a second before sprinting toward the vehicle. Behind her, voices shouted. Footsteps pounded against the pavement. The SUV's back door swung open. Without thinking, she dove inside. The door slammed shut. The driver hit the gas. As they sped away from the airstrip, Maya finally turned to see who had just saved her. She gasped. It was the missing flight attendant, and she was pointing a gun at Maya. The SUV sped down a deserted road, kicking up dust as the airstrip disappeared behind them. The black-clad men on the tarmac grew smaller in the distance, but Dr. Maya Carter knew they wouldn't give up that easily. Inside the vehicle, the air was thick with tension. The woman in the driver's seat, the missing flight attendant, gripped the wheel with one hand. The other hand held a sleek, black pistol, aimed directly at Maya's chest. "Don't move," she warned, her voice calm but firm. Maya held up her hands, her pulse hammering. "Who are you?" The woman's eyes flicked toward her, sharp and calculating. "The only reason you're still breathing." That wasn't an answer. Maya's mind raced. If this woman had been impersonating a flight attendant, then she wasn't part of the airline crew. But she also wasn't with the men at the airstrip, otherwise she wouldn't have helped Maya escape. That meant she had her own agenda. Maya swallowed hard. "Where are you taking me?" The woman didn't answer. She kept driving, her gaze flicking to the rearview mirror. Maya turned slightly, looking out the back window. The SUVs were moving fast. "They're following us," Maya said. The woman muttered a curse under her breath and pressed harder on the gas. The SUV surged forward. Maya took a slow breath. Panic wouldn't help her now. She needed information. "You knew they were going to take me," she said carefully. "That's why you got me off the plane." The woman didn't deny it. Maya pressed further. "Why? Who are they?" A long silence. Then, finally, they're the ones who erased your name from the passenger list. Maya felt a chill crawl up her spine. Why would they do that? The woman glanced at her. Because they never wanted you on that plane. Maya's breath caught. Then why was she there? The woman continued. Someone messed up. You weren't supposed to board. But once you did, they had to adjust. Adjust how? The woman's knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. By making sure you never got to your destination. Maya's stomach twisted. They had planned to remove her. That's what the rerouted landing was about. But for what reason? Maya shook her head. I'm just a surgeon. I don't have enemies. This doesn't make sense. The woman let out a humorless laugh. Then you don't know what you're involved in. Maya clenched her fists. Then tell me. Before the woman could answer, a loud pop shattered the air. The back windshield exploded. Maya ducked as glass rained down. A bullet had just missed her head by inches. The SUVs were closer now. One of them had a gunman leaning out of the passenger window, aiming right at them. Hold on, the woman shouted. She jerked the wheel to the right. The SUV veered off the main road, bouncing violently as it hit rough terrain. Dust billowed around them, obscuring their pursuers' line of sight. Maya gripped the seat, her heart hammering. They're not going to stop. Then neither are we. The woman yanked the emergency brake and spun the wheel hard. The SUV skidded sideways, its tires kicking up a storm of dirt. The move sent their pursuers scrambling to adjust their trajectory. Maya barely had time to react before the woman tossed her the gun. Cover me, she ordered. Maya's hands closed around the weapon automatically. Her breath hitched. I'm a doctor, she said, voice shaking. I don't. You want to live? The woman snapped. Then aim and fire. Maya hesitated only a second. Then she turned, heart pounding, and raised the gun. The SUVs were almost on them. She had no choice. She squeezed the trigger. The night erupted in chaos. Dr. Maya Carter had held a scalpel in the most delicate surgeries, had steadied her hands while saving lives on the operating table. But now, those same hands were gripping a gun, her finger trembling over the trigger. The SUV jolted violently as it tore across uneven ground. The armed men in the pursuing vehicles were closing in, their headlights cutting through the dust cloud. Maya exhaled sharply, trying to steady herself. She had never fired a gun in her life. Another shot rang out from behind. The bullet tore through the side mirror, sending shards of glass flying. The woman driving, still gripping the wheel tightly, yelled, "Shoot!" Maya's heart pounded. She raised the gun, aimed at the tires of the closest SUV, and pulled the trigger. The recoil slammed through her arm. The shot missed. Damn it, the woman cursed. Keep going. Maya gritted her teeth, forcing herself to focus. She took a deep breath, adjusted her grip, and aimed again. This time, she calculated the movement of the vehicle, the bounce of the terrain. She fired. A loud bang. The bullet hit the front tire of the nearest SUV. The vehicle swerved violently, its driver struggling for control. It clipped a rock, flipped over, and tumbled into a cloud of dust. Maya's stomach turned. She had just crippled a vehicle full of people. The woman beside her gave a sharp nod. Not bad, Doc. Maya wasn't sure if she wanted to throw up or scream, but there was no time for either. Another SUV was still coming faster, angrier. Maya turned to fire again, but the woman jerked the wheel hard. The sudden movement sent the SUV flying off the dirt path and onto an abandoned highway. For a moment, the pursuit fell behind. Where are we going? Maya asked, trying to catch her breath. The woman glanced at her, then back at the road. Somewhere they can't follow. Maya frowned. Who are they? The woman hesitated. Private sector. Not government, but just as dangerous. They deal in secrets, and right now you are one. Maya's grip on the gun tightened. That doesn't make sense. I'm a surgeon. I saved the wrong man, the woman interrupted. Maya froze. What? The woman exhaled. The guy on the plane, the one you saved? He wasn't just some businessman. He was carrying something valuable, something they wanted, and they thought you were part of it. Maya's skin went cold. Part of what? The woman pressed harder on the gas. A cover-up. A very expensive, very classified cover-up. Ahead, the dark highway stretched endlessly. No cities, no streetlights, just open road and danger behind them. Maya felt a chill creep through her. So what happens now? The woman's grip on the wheel tightened. They won't stop. Maya swallowed hard. Then what do we do? The woman finally looked at her, her eyes sharp. We make sure they never find you again. Maya's breath caught. What does that mean? Before she could press for an answer, the woman suddenly swerved the car hard to the right. Maya barely had time to react before she realized they were heading straight for a cliff. The SUV hurtled toward the edge of the cliff, the headlights illuminating the jagged rocks below. Dr. Maya Carter's breath caught in her throat. Are you insane? She screamed, bracing herself against the dashboard. The woman behind the wheel didn't flinch. Her grip on the steering wheel was steady, her jaw set in determination. Trust me, she said, and then she did the unthinkable. She floored the gas pedal. Maya's scream was lost in the roar of the engine. The SUV launched off the cliff. For a terrifying moment, they were weightless. The world seemed to hang in suspended silence. The distant glow of headlights from their pursuers remained above, but Maya had no time to process what was happening. Then, the car hit water. The impact was brutal. The windshield cracked, airbags deployed, and freezing water rushed in. Maya gasped as the shock of the cold sent her body into panic. Out! Now! The woman shouted, already ripping off her seatbelt. Maya fumbled with hers, her fingers numb from the icy water. The SUV was sinking fast, the pressure forcing water through every opening. The woman reached into her jacket and pulled out a small tactical knife. With one swift motion, she sliced Maya's seatbelt free. Move! Maya took a deep breath and followed as the woman pushed the door open. The resistance was strong, but they managed to squeeze through. The freezing current dragged them down. Maya kicked furiously, lungs burning, as she fought toward the surface. The weight of exhaustion and adrenaline threatened to pull her under, but she forced herself to move. Finally, her head broke through the water. She gasped for air, coughing violently. The woman surfaced beside her. Swim to the shore. Maya turned and saw land, a rocky embankment, a few hundred feet away. Above them, the headlights of the SUVs remained motionless at the cliff's edge. They don't see us, Maya panted. They will if we don't move. Maya forced her aching limbs to push forward, stroke by stroke, until her feet scraped against solid ground. She collapsed onto the wet stones, shivering uncontrollably. The woman crawled up beside her and pulled something from a waterproof pouch inside her jacket. A phone. Maya's voice was hoarse. Who are you calling? The woman didn't answer. She typed something quickly, then tossed the phone into the water. It sank instantly. No signal, she muttered. Figures. Maya pushed herself up, still breathless. What now? The woman looked up at the towering cliffside, then at Maya. We disappear. Maya shook her head. Disappear? No. I need answers. You said I saved the wrong man. Who was he? What was he carrying? The woman sighed. His name is Ethan Vaughn, and he wasn't supposed to make it off that plane alive. Maya's stomach twisted. So someone tried to kill him? They didn't just try, the woman said darkly. They're still trying. Maya shivered, not just from the cold. And what about me? The woman met her gaze. They think you're part of this now, which means you're a target too. Maya exhaled shakily. She was just a surgeon. She had boarded a flight home. And now she was running for her life. Dr. Maya Carter sat on the cold, jagged rocks, her breath still ragged from the swim. The night air was sharp against her wet clothes, and the realization of her situation was sinking in fast. She was stranded in the middle of nowhere, soaked to the bone, and being hunted by men who had already tried to kill her twice. Across from her, the woman, the one who had saved her, or perhaps kidnapped her, was checking a small, waterproof pouch. She pulled out a knife, a compact flashlight, and a folded map. Maya hugged her arms to her body, shivering. So, what now? We just hide. The woman didn't look up. We keep moving. The second they realize we're not dead at the bottom of that river, they'll be on us. Maya exhaled sharply. And where exactly are we supposed to go? You haven't even told me your name. The woman flicked on the flashlight, aiming it toward the dense forest ahead. It's Kate. Maya studied her. That's it? Just Kate? Kate smirked. Would you prefer a long introduction with a fake last name? Maya sighed, too exhausted to argue. Kate stood. We need to get off this shoreline before they start searching the area. Maya hesitated. You still haven't answered my question. Why were they trying to kill Ethan Vaughn? Kate's jaw tightened. She stuffed the map back into her pouch and started walking toward the treeline. Because he has something they want. Maya pushed herself up and followed. What? Kate didn't answer right away. She moved with practiced precision, stepping carefully to avoid making too much noise. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. You're a doctor. You ever hear of Project Aegis? Maya frowned. No. Kate glanced at her. That's the problem. No one has. And that's exactly how they want it. Maya's skin prickled. What is it? Kate stepped over a fallen tree branch. A pharmaceutical project. Highly classified. Supposedly designed for medical breakthroughs. Maya narrowed her eyes. Supposedly? Kate exhaled. In reality, it's a bioweapon program. Maya stopped dead in her tracks. What? Kate turned to face her. Ethan Vaughn was an insider. He stole information. Proof that the company behind it, Price Dynamics, was developing something illegal. Something dangerous. And he was trying to leak it before they could silence him. Maya's head spun. So they poisoned him? Kate nodded. But it didn't work. Because you saved him. Maya's stomach twisted. She had thought she was just helping a passenger in distress. But she had unknowingly disrupted an assassination. Kate kept moving. Now, they need to clean up their mess. That means getting rid of Ethan. And anyone else who knows too much. Maya swallowed. Meaning me? Kate nodded grimly. Maya shook her head. This is insane. I was supposed to be going home after a long shift. Now I'm on the run from some corporate kill squad. Kate stopped, turned to her. Welcome to the real world, Doctor. Maya let out a shaky breath. And Ethan? What happened to him after we escaped the plane? Kate's expression darkened. If they got to him before we did, then he's already dead. A cold dread settled over Maya. She had risked everything to save that man's life. And now he might be gone. Kate glanced back toward the shoreline. We need to keep moving. There's an old service road a few miles from here. If we reach it before they spread out their search, we might have a chance. Maya clenched her fists, forcing down the fear creeping into her chest. She had spent her entire life fighting to save lives. Now, for the first time, she had to fight for her own. With one last look toward the distant airstrip, she turned and followed Kate into the dark. Dr. Maya Carter could feel the weight of the night pressing down on her. The forest was eerily quiet, except for the sound of her and Kate's careful footsteps against the damp earth. Every branch that snapped underfoot made her heart jump. They weren't just running. They were being hunted. The service road lay ahead, cracked and overgrown, a relic from another time. It was their only chance at finding a way out, but now it might also be a trap. Kate crouched low, scanning the area with a small monocular she had pulled from her waterproof pouch. Maya crouched beside her, her pulse hammering. What do you see? She whispered. Kate muttered a curse. SUV. Half a mile down. No headlights. They're waiting. A chill ran down Maya's spine. An ambush. They knew we'd come this way, she murmured. Kate's jaw clenched. No, they made sure we came this way. Maya inhaled sharply. They hadn't been escaping, they had been herded. Kate turned to Maya, her voice low. We have two options. One, we loop around, move deeper into the forest and find another way. Maya swallowed. And the other? Kate hesitated. We take them head on. Maya's stomach turned. They were unarmed, exhausted, and outnumbered. Charging directly into an ambush would be suicide. We need another plan, she whispered. Kate glanced toward the trees. We could try doubling back, force them to chase us, and then snap. The sharp sound of a broken branch cut through the silence. Maya barely had time to register it before a gloved hand clamped over her mouth. Her scream was muffled as strong arms dragged her backward into the shadows. Kate spun around, reaching for her knife, but another figure lunged from the darkness, pinning her to the ground. Maya fought wildly, kicking and twisting, but her attacker was trained, efficient, methodical. A cold barrel pressed against her ribs. Then came the voice. Low, calm, and terrifyingly familiar. Going somewhere, Doctor? The man in the dark suit stepped forward from the trees, his polished shoes crunching against the gravel. Maya stilled. It was him, the same man who had boarded the plane, the same one who had ordered her to be removed. Kate struggled against the men holding her, but she was outmatched. They had been cornered. The suited man sighed, adjusting his cuffs. You've caused quite the mess, Dr. Carter. But don't worry. We're here to clean it up. Maya's pulse thundered. Who are you? The man smiled. Just someone tying up loose ends. Kate gritted her teeth. Yeah? You must be pretty desperate if you needed 6 guys to do it. The man chuckled. Oh, I admire your spirit. Truly. But you're wasting your energy. There's no backup coming, no last-minute rescue. It's over. Maya felt her chest tighten. Was this it? The man crouched in front of her, lowering his voice. I'll give you credit, Doctor. You've made it farther than expected. But this is where it ends. Maya's mind raced. She had saved lives in impossible situations. She had fought against death every day in the operating room. But now she had to fight for herself. And she had one last move left. She looked at Kate. Their eyes met, a silent exchange. Now, Maya slammed her elbow backward, catching the man restraining her in the ribs. He grunted in surprise, his grip loosening just enough. Kate moved at the same time. In one swift motion, she yanked the knife from her boot and drove it into the leg of the man pinning her down. The chaos was instant. Maya twisted free and dove for the gun in the attacker's holster. Kate ripped her blade free, spun, and took down another man with a vicious strike. The suited man's smirk vanished. Stop them. A gunshot rang out. Maya's heart stopped. She didn't know who fired first, her or them. All she knew was that they had seconds before more of them arrived. Kate grabbed Maya's arm. Run! Maya didn't hesitate. They sprinted into the trees as bullets whizzed past them, branches snapping in the gunfire. They weren't out yet, but they had one last chance to survive. The forest was alive with chaos. Gunfire cracked through the trees, the sharp whistle of bullets cutting through the air as Dr. Maya Carter and Kate sprinted for their lives. Maya's lungs burned, her body pushed beyond exhaustion. Every muscle screamed for rest, but stopping meant death. Faster, Kate urged, weaving through the dense foliage like a ghost. Maya forced herself forward, heart pounding. The men behind them were relentless, their shouts growing closer. A bullet ripped through the bark of a tree beside her, splintering wood inches from her head. She swallowed her fear and kept running. They burst into a clearing. For a split second, Maya felt a rush of relief, open space. But then her stomach dropped. A steep cliff. Maya skidded to a stop, nearly toppling over the edge. Jagged rocks loomed below, the black waters of a river swirling in the darkness. Kate cursed, whirling to assess their options. None were good. The cliff was a death sentence. The only way down was a sheer drop. Behind them, branches snapped. Their pursuers were closing in. Maya turned to Kate, breathless. What now? Kate scanned the area. We fight. Maya's pulse pounded. She was a surgeon, not a soldier. She had never fired a gun until today, and now she was supposed to fight trained killers? But then she remembered they were already dead if they didn't. Maya gritted her teeth. Fine. How? Kate's lips curled into a smirk. We even the odds. Kate grabbed a rock and flung it toward the trees. The moment it crashed through the underbrush, gunfire erupted, a blind, desperate spray. Maya understood immediately. They didn't have a clear shot on them. The men thought they were still moving. Kate dropped low, motioning for Maya to follow. Crawl. They moved silently, using the darkness and terrain to their advantage. The gunmen continued firing at the decoy noise, unaware their targets were no longer in the line of fire. Kate reached into her waterproof pouch and pulled out a small flare gun. Maya's eyes widened. You had that the whole time? Kate winked. For emergencies. She aimed upward and fired. A bright red flare streaked into the sky, bursting with a brilliant glow. The men shouted in confusion, momentarily blinded by the sudden light. Kate grabbed Maya's wrist. Move! They sprinted along the cliff's edge, the flare's glow casting eerie shadows around. Then, a loud roar filled the air. A helicopter. Maya's head snapped up. A dark silhouette cut through the sky, moving toward them fast. Kate grinned. There's our ride. The helicopter hovered just beyond the cliff's edge. The side door slid open, revealing a man with a harness and rope. He waved frantically. Jump. Now. Maya's stomach twisted. Jump? Kate grabbed her shoulder. Trust me, document. Maya didn't trust her. But at this moment, she had no other choice. Kate took 2 steps back and leaped. Maya's breath hitched as she watched her free fall for a split second before the man in the helicopter snagged her harness and pulled her in. Then it was Maya's turn. Bullets exploded at her feet. The gunman had found them. No time to hesitate. She took a deep breath and jumped. For a moment, there was only the rush of air, the weightlessness of falling, then a hand caught hers. Kate and the man hauled her into the helicopter just as the first gunman burst through the trees. The pilot pulled up hard. The aircraft veered away from the cliff, leaving the gunman behind. Maya collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. Kate flopped beside her, grinning. Told you I had a plan. Maya let out a breathless laugh. I hate you. Kate smirked. That's fair. As the helicopter gained altitude, Maya turned to the man who had pulled them aboard. He was middle-aged, rugged, and had the same sharpness in his eyes as Kate. Who are you? She asked. He offered a small smile. Just someone who doesn't like corporations playing God. Maya frowned. Ethan Vaughn. Is he? The man's smile faded. We don't know. But if he's alive, he's running. Maya exhaled, the weight of everything finally crashing down on her. She had gone from a simple flight home to being hunted over secrets she had never asked to know. But she had survived. Kate nudged her. You did good back there, document. Maya smirked tiredly. Yeah? Think I should change careers? Kate chuckled. Stick to saving lives. Leave the chaos to me. Maya stared out at the darkened landscape below, the city lights flickering on the horizon. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew one thing for sure: she was never boarding a plane again. Maya Carter had boarded a plane expecting nothing more than a quiet flight home. Instead, she uncovered a deadly conspiracy, survived an assassination attempt, and escaped with her life barely. But some questions still lingered. Who had truly been behind the attack on Ethan Vaughn? Was he still alive? And most importantly, was she really safe? For now, Maya was free, But the world she had glimpsed, the world of secrets, power, and control, wasn't going to forget her. And neither would she. What would you have done in Maya's situation? Let us know in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Like this story? Subscribe for more thrilling content every week. Hit that button so you don't miss the next adventure. Turn on notifications so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. See you in the next one.